Gallery.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Salary Committee. Members of the committee are Mr. Pace, Mr. Rippus, and myself, and alternate Mr. Lonzer. The purpose of this meeting tonight is to discuss Resolution Number 2, 2024, which is to approve a memorandum of agreement between the city and the AFSCME to allow for a rate change to offer more competitive wages for our sanitation laborers. Basically, I think anybody that hasn't lived under a rock understands the problem we have really nationwide with wages and keeping up with competitive wages. What we have going on right now is this memorandum will take our current sanitation labor rates from 0 years to 5 years is currently, this is the current rates, are at $15, 5 to 10 is $16, 10 to 15 is $17, and 15 to 20 is $18. This will take 0 to 20 to $18. So it would be a starting wage of $18. The 20 to 25 remains the same, and more than 25 remains the same. I did ask Lacey McCain from HR for a little bit of additional information just so we fully understand, and I sent this out earlier, but I'll go over it. We currently have 10 full-time sanitation laborers, but 12 puts us at full staffing. Of these 10 full-time employees, 5 currently make more than the $18 hour wage and won't be impacted by this resolution, and 5 currently make $15 an hour. With the passage of resolution number 2, 2024, 5 employees will go from $15 an hour to $18 an hour. And I had her do some quick math on how that would impact us in terms of the salaries. It's roughly, each employee has roughly 2,080 annual hours, and you times that times $3 increase, it's about 6,240 annually. So the 5 employees total would be about 31,200 annually, and that does not include the 2 new additional employees to get back to full staffing. Talked a little bit to the service director, and we do have these funds in the enterprise fund to cover this for the increase, and I'm going to let Ron talk a little bit more about how we came to this, what we're dealing with in terms of being able to find new employees, and I believe we also are struggling to keep current employees at that wage. So Ron, would you like to add a little bit to that, just to kind of say how it went with working with the union and how we came to this number?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
As I think everybody heard, that there's 12 people in the sanitation department, we only have 10 at this time. So not only are we trying to attract the employees, but we have to try to retain those employees. So that's the balancing act we've been having in that department, and to expand on that, in the last 6.5 months, we've lost 4, 2 to factories, 1 to a small engine repair shop, and 2 others to one to oil field. So to compete and to just to attract, I believe it's what's needed. After speaking with the union representatives, I think it was the easiest way to go about it. If you see the way that scale was, and that gets us through till 2025, when we can go into negotiations, which will be in October, November, but the contract won't start till 25. And the big piece of this is what the chairman had spoke to, is the fact that this is an enterprise fund. It's not the general fund. It's, I believe, last looking at it from the last budget numbers, there was a carryover like 626,000. This will take us in about the 580 range of a carryover also. So again, it's nothing that's hurt right now at that general fund or master capital. It's an enterprise fund. It's solid fund, and to overall equip the city in the best way. I think this is a start. I think this is probably just a stopgap, but we'll address it here in a few months as far as when we go to negotiations, and hopefully that will make it even better for us. But I believe right now, this is the best way to approach it, and that's also the way the union leaders felt also.
Thanks, Ron. I'd like to open up to the committee for questions.
We had spoken in the session, we discussed this about as people move to CDLs. This is part of that increase.
Yeah.
So
Go
they
ahead.
wouldn't get an additional increase. This is just already built into.
I'm glad you brought that up,
Okay.
Councilman Rose, because I did fail to mention that. The big thing is right now also starting out at that wage, to keep your employment with the city of New Philadelphia, you gotta get a CDL license. And the way testing or license are in the contract is you have the upfront cost, we reimburse once passed. That's no matter you get a wastewater license or any type of license. So they've got $3,500 out of pocket and then get reimbursed, so it makes it tough on that wage. So, you know, if you give them, you know, $6,000 as far as total for the year, they still gonna get that paid back. But it makes it a little easier maybe to come up with that money at $3 more an hour for the hourly wage. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. I thought that was a part of it. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure it was clear in my mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I think you covered it. As far as the enterprise fund, this is not coming out of the general fund
Right,
for the salary increase, so the money is there,
yes.
so.
I'm the same thing, it's coming right from the enterprise fund, so it has nothing to do with, you know, what the regular budget we're working on.
No.
Open up, any other questions from council members, administration? Beth, yeah?
Is this gonna start the day it passes, or is it gonna be retroactive to the
No,
beginning?
I wasn't gonna do no retroactive. If you read it, it should say March the 4th. Yes.
Okay,
Which is, that starts a new pay period, that's why we chose that date. I wasn't gonna mess with retro, I didn't wanna put that on anybody or anything like that. That's why I had spoke with Chairman Cranbill about the urgency of hopefully getting it passed tonight on first reading. And so I hope that we can do that.
Any comments from the public on this? Is there any action to be taken this evening?
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 2, 2024, or add it to tonight's agenda and pass on first reading.
Second that.
All right. Take a vote. Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Rippus?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Is there any other matters need to come before committee? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, let's see, adjourned at 6:53.
This one does too.
Call this public hearing meeting to order. The city of New Philadelphia intends to permanently rezone the following parcels in the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio from residential to business zone. Parcel 430087600, parcel 430713600, parcel 430728100. And also, the city of New Philadelphia also intends to permanently rezone the following parcel in the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio from residential to industrial zone, which is parcel 430067900. At this time, we're gonna ask the public if you have any views and comments. If you would like to go up to the podium, you'll have 5 minutes to express your opinions. And we'll ask you to give your name and your address also. The microphone won't magnify your voice, it'll just record it, so we have it for our records.
Hello,
Hi.
Jill White, and I own Martinelli Pools and Spas. I was given a letter today at around 3 o'clock to be here at 7. But there was no map included with the letter stating what the parcels were, just that they were behind our stores. So from what I've been able to determine, looks like you've grouped a lot of our parcels behind our properties together to make them big enough so that you can try to expand back there. My concern is years ago, we were given the opportunity to purchase land behind our store, which we did. Didn't have to go to auction. We were able to purchase it. 2011, when I bought the business, I approached the city about purchasing the rest of the ground behind my store, and we were told, no, we couldn't do that because the Ohio Erie Canal was going through there. Okay? 2017, still no progress on the Ohio Erie Canal. I approached the city again, and we were told the same thing, cannot purchase it because it's going to be part of Ohio Erie Canal. About a couple weeks ago, the gentleman who owns the factory, or the warehouse, a couple doors down from us, informed us that get ready because it's going to be rezoned and going to be auctioned off because he wants to expand his business. So I thought it was funny that then today I got a letter at 3 o'clock with exactly what he informed me a week ago. So why is it that the pizza shop next door and I, who we share, split our property so that our trucks can come in and out, you combine both those parcels in order to make it big enough for anybody to build anything? And I get it because you want the tax dollars. But what are we supposed to do then when we were asked in 2011 to move our garbage to Canal Avenue so we don't shut down commercial? What am I supposed to do with my semi-trucks that come in 2 to 3 days a week? Am I supposed to tie up commercial, which is a 1 lane, for 45 minutes to unload our trucks? And that's just me. That doesn't include East of Chicago. That doesn't include South Park Pizza. Then you have the houses further down from my shop that don't even have parking that comes in off of commercial. It all comes in off of Canal. And you've grouped all of their residential properties together under one parcel from what I can tell. I wouldn't know for sure because I still don't have a map with what parcels go to which section. So those are my concerns. I understand the city wants to make money, the factory wants to expand. I don't have a problem with the factory expanding. I just want answered why we weren't given a chance to purchase it like we were years ago, and what you expect for us to now do with the traffic flow that's going to hold up Canal, or Commercial Avenue.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public have any comments?
Anthony Walker. My wife owns South Philly Pizza. I have the same complaint as her. We don't have nowhere to park if that sells. Like there's 6 to 7 employees that park back there, and we have 5 parking places for customers. So we're concerned on where employees are gonna park, where our semis are gonna get in and out of the place. And we're kind of the same as Martinelli's was. We tried to buy it years ago, and we was told it's the Ohio Erie Canal and it can't be sold. So we just don't, if that sells, we have nowhere to park for employees. On a busy night, there could be 7 employees and 5 parking places for customers, so.
And I have cameras, I can give them all the footage to show
Yeah,
how busy they
there's,
are.
there's some nights, we're so busy that they actually park next to Martinelli's business, or, I mean, on a Friday night, there might be 10 vehicles sitting there. More than that, counting the employees, there'd be 15. So it, like, there's, I don't, we own maybe 10 to 12 feet behind the business, and we have nowhere to park if that sells. That's our biggest concern is for employees, really. But if you don't have employees, you don't have customers. So we're just concerned on that. I really don't see them staying in business they'll have to find somewhere else to move to if it sells. And the same thing as Martinelli's, it's not one parcel behind us. Like the parcel that I seen the map of, it's behind the pizza shop that goes clear over to behind Martinelli's. And then if you can't afford to buy it, if you get somebody with a big bag of money, we can't afford to buy it. And that's South Philly Pizza's biggest concern.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Yes.
Jeff Cox, my wife and I, Melanie, are here because we actually live next to Martinelli. And when I did a search of these parcels, it wasn't even around us, so it concerns me, like the fact that, again, without a map, and the fact that I just got this letter today in the mail at 3 o'clock, leaves me with little time to prepare to find out what is adequately going on with this situation, and wondering if I'd indeed have to either worry about my residence or my entire backyard going to a factory. So I was hoping to get some clarification here as to what is indeed, which parcels we're actually talking about, like where this is talking about. Is it running across my backyard? As they mentioned, I was concerned about that too, because I wouldn't have thought that, you know, with when we bought the house, part of the property was owned by the city because of the aforementioned canal, and there being the historical site down the road from us, makes it seem odd that we're going to expand a factory or any kind of business towards what is marked as a historical site. And also wondering if indeed, after we just did some renovation to make room to move my mother-in-law, her mother in because of her health, to be able to have her around, if we're going to be able to stay there to be able to do that, because I'm very confused on the vagueness of the letter that I've only received 7 hours ago in the mail to come to this meeting and find out that we're looking to expand something into my backyard.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Ramos.
I see Larry back there. Could you put this up on the overhead? They're asking for clarification on this. And somebody else can speak while he's doing that thing.
Yeah, if there's anybody else that has comments while we're setting up too.
One more thing, the gentleman that originally wants to build, that has the factory, I talked to him today, he wants nothing to do with it anymore. They dropped out of it. Like he told me his business it's like a big global business, they're all over. He said it don't make sense for them to build for all the more room he's got. So they're out of the picture altogether now, is what he told me today. Yeah, he said they'll have to move if they can't buy the parcel behind them, because there's a loading dock. So they'll have to, he said he'll just sell it and move. So I think the guy that he originally wanted to add on, he's completely out of the picture now. He said they want nothing to do with building there.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like you're on, Julie.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for a question for clarification?
Sure.
The gentleman that just spoke for clarification, the guy you're talking about is the factory owner that doesn't want to have anything to do with that now?
Correct.
Yes, the warehouse
he told me they're dropping clear out of it because it's not, it don't make sense for them to add on to their building for all the more room that he'll have.
You ain't gonna get that going by the time it's over.
It's blinking.
It's green blinking.
There it goes, now it's solid green.
Okay. Big enough to sell. Okay. This is 4 acres, this is 4 acres.
And the blue.
Okay.
Do, can we, where's the light switch to turn off? The
Let me
front?
get the light.
Hang on, Julie.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go, thank you.
I think that's good.
You wanna share?
Chairman.
Just hit the laser.
Laser. Oh, there we
got it?
are.
Yep.
So we're talking about these right here,
All the way down.
Down further.
So starting all the way up top, Cheryl.
start at the top, up there.
So everything in the bright, kind of the lighter yellow.
It's highlighted. There's a red around it on it, you guys can see that.
They're down.
Can you guys see that?
So they're down in this section.
Yeah, they're down here. I,
Yeah, right, that would be where they're, yeah.
so is Martinelli's right there?
Correct,
Okay, and the pizza shop is up here?
correct.
And our little
And,
house next door to Martinelli's.
This is the,
That's the warehouse.
shirt sign shop, right?
No,
That's up,
that's the warehouse
That's
that's.
that's the warehouse.
That's,
And this is who you guys were talking
That's
about
East of
once.
Chicago.
that's east
That's
of
pizza.
Chicago.
That's east of Chicago right there.
Okay,
And you have public parking behind east of Chicago right now where your light is.
okay.
But the warehouse right there where your light is right now, they have semis that come in there about every 45 minutes to an hour apart. That's where their loading docks are. Then if you go to your right, that's the pizza shop, and they get deliveries twice a week there, not including their dumpsters that are picked up. Then to Martinelli's, I get shipments 3 times a week with semis, trucks that come in. And then once a year, I tie up for about 8 hours, because that's my major buy for the whole season. So that means Commercial Avenue would be shut down for almost a whole day.
And the gentleman that spoke about the residence, that's there?
It's literally
That's the
right
one-
next to Martinelli,
the one
to the
right
left.
Come back.
Right, right now,
Yeah.
okay, there.
But you still have another 3 or 4 homes that stretch out
Yeah.
along the whole back there that no longer have access on commercial because it's been this way for years. So they come in off of Canal so they don't have to fight the traffic.
There's a house actually on Canal back there that is up north about where your crosshairs are. I don't know about north,
Okay.
but high up above where you are, there's a house that sits on Canal, so is that one of them too, that they might drop up a little bit? to
Well, I
the
think
right?
it would end before that because that would be their whole property.
that-
It dead ends into there.
Mrs.
Like-
Mrs. Chairwoman,
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to help point out for them. Go ahead.
I think just to let everybody know, all this is to rezone it, it's not to sell it.
That's step one in the direction that you all wanna go.
But right now, that's all these guys are voting on today, is to rezone it.
Right, and I just happened to get a letter at 3 o'clock, so the
Yeah, I
next
don't-
time it goes for
I didn't take care of
auction,
any of
I
that.
don't get a letter at all, then what happens?
Like I say, I didn't have anything to do with that part of it, I'm just saying this is part of rezoning. And,
So why are we going for rezoning then?
because it went through planning commission to rezone it.
But why? Because the warehouse requested it?
I believe that was the first one through, planning and zoning code administrator Matthias.
So what meeting should we have been to that said, why are we combining the parcels behind all of our houses in one lump sum, and the property behind South Park Pizza and Martinelli's under one lump sum? Those parcels all had to have been changed.
No parcel's been changed at all yet.
You didn't combine any of the parcels?
No.
Correct. You are correct.
No, that would be, this is only the rezoning step, as Ron
So are
indicated.
you going to business and industrial because then it has a zero?
No, it's going to business.
Well, one of them's going to industrial.
Well, that's,
Yeah, and that's
those are
in the
different
other,
parcels.
that's northwest, off occasion.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you going to business because then there's a zero property, ordinance where how far away you have to be? So they can build right up against where my shed is?
No, I believe the business was so that they could conduct business like they are doing there now in most of those lots.
And with the size of parcel that's left there, what do you intend to have put there?
Whoever would buy it
No parking available. And
for,
there's barely enough room for square footage to even put
for
in a
who,
small
as far
house.
as, for who as far as parking?
I'm just using what's behind my house, or behind my business alone.
Yeah.
I have 3 trucks parked there right now, and that takes me all the way to the end of the street.
Right.
So you figure out the width of a truck, what are you going to build that's the width of 3 trucks?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be buying it, so I don't have to make that decision. They may buy it all, whoever buys it.
For clarification's sake, if I may, does that mean, like, again, like, how far, I can't see very well from back here exactly, like, are we talking like the backyard of my house as well is going to be rezoned?
Yes, all that property is canal land.
Like, that's what I'm curious about too, because are we talking
Yes,
like,
it'd be up to where your fence is.
like, yeah,
And that's the only way you have access to your house too, if I recall.
well, we have a
Because
front
your
parking
garage
lot
is
now,
turned into
but,
part of a
yeah,
bedroom.
but we have we turned it into a parking lot out front of there for us, but our neighbor, who I think is actually a rental property, they rent that from whoever owns it, but they only have out back parking for that house.
And when our
Right next to
kids
us.
come, they
Yeah.
park back there.
So the purpose of doing this is to bring in new businesses, correct?
I don't know if it will, it's just the process to start to zone that to business.
Okay. So I personally don't see the reasoning behind it if you affect, how long has South Philly been in, or
6 years.
Martinelli's, how
So
long?
we
Since
moved.
1958, we've been there.
Okay, so in order, if we bring in a potential new business, you just ran out to Staples in the community.
Yep.
Because we will not be able to conduct business there, South Philly Pizza. Not a chance.
If that sells, we move.
And the warehouse has already said they'll move, because they won't be able to bring their semis in either.
Yeah, if
So
you
now
guys
they're gonna
need to
lose
speak,
that one as well.
at the podium, and state your name and address again.
Because it records, right? Records at the podium.
But we have no mics back there.
All right, Jill White again with Martinelli Pools. So, as we were all discussing a few minutes ago, which was the fact that you're going to sell all that off, hoping to get more businesses in. And in the process, you're eliminating at least 3. Because the warehouse has already bowed out and said they're moving because they won't be able to get their trucks in. I won't be able to get my trucks in. I'm not gonna have any place for customers to park. Same thing, during the day, we use their parking to help with our customers, and in the evening, they're open, so they use our parking lot to help with their overflow customers. So we're already trading off within our block and neighborhood to help accommodate the businesses to continue to grow as it is. So,
Okay, thank you. We have anybody else that has a comment, that hasn't got to speak yet? Go ahead, sir.
Jeff Cox, 303 Commercial Avenue Southeast, right next to Martinelli. I just wanted to clarify, I guess, because as for businesses, they're getting business in, I lose my yard. So, I mean, does that mean that that is then owned by, like, the city? If it's available as a business, that I no longer own this property beyond my fence line?
Is your backyard included in that yellow area?
From what I can tell, like, from back here, it just looks like light
And that's
colored
not your
grass. I can't
property.
tell.
That's not your property,
You don't own it now, they own it.
yeah.
Okay, so but that's part of, like, so that entire area behind my fence line is all, like, belongs to the city as it is?
Correct.
Okay. And then, so like, we wouldn't have essentially access to it at all anymore then beyond that line when, if something happens to come in and build there?
I mean, I suppose that's possible. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Anthony Walker with South Philly Pizza. I'm looking for it on the map. Well, it's right in the middle, right there. So if that yard sells that's behind the pizza shop, to me, that looks like one big parcel. Is it not?
It's not currently.
No, not currently, but why is it there? Like, if that sells, we have nowhere to park. Like, you put 5 vehicles in front of that building, where's customers park? Like, there's nowhere. I don't understand how the city just decides to, and I understand it is the Ohio Erie Canal, but when we bought that place 20 years ago, they told us that we could use it, but we just can't put I believe they said you can't put a foundation on it. We could put a shed back there, we could use it. So we bought that, and it's been like that 18 or 19 years anyway. So if the city decides to sell it, I don't understand what you guys think we're supposed to do. Or where employees park, or, well, if employees aren't there, it won't be in business.
But it will be, if we do decide, I mean, the city will be able to sell it. I mean, so they'll have, everybody have a chance to buy.
Yeah, but it goes to public auction. What if we can't afford it? I mean, the price of land these days, and if somebody comes in there and wants to buy every one of them parcels, a normal small business wouldn't be able to afford to buy all that. Like, why can't you just sell the parcel that's there? If they want to sell it, at least give the business a chance to buy the parcel that's behind them.
But as the service director directed tonight, the only thing we're voting on is the zoning change. We're not changing any of the parcels as of now.
And actually, to answer your question, you'd probably have to field that with our law director. I don't believe you're allowed to. I don't know, Marvin, could you talk to that? As far as, has to go to public auction, am I right?
Yes, by law, it has to go to public auction unless we received it through our foreclosure.
So if it goes to public auction, I mean, yeah, we would try to buy it, but land's going crazy right now. So if an investor comes in there and wants it all, we're kicked out with nowhere to park.
Jill White again with Martinelli Pools. So, Marvin, you might be able to answer this one.
Sure.
By rezoning it to business, okay? Is that the reason that it has to go to public auction then? So if it stays as residential, does it have to go to public auction? Because I'm wondering, because when I bought the last 10, 12 feet behind my building, it was not auctioned off to us. We were presented with an option of, would you like to purchase this or not? And we did for the price that they had offered it to us.
It doesn't matter whether it's, what it's zoned. The Ohio Revised Code requires that if you're gonna sell public property that has not been acquired through land reutilization program, it has to go to public auction. I can't speak to how you bought it previously.
So is it possible then to break those parcels back out that corresponds with the business in front of them or the residence in front so that the parcels match up?
The city can certainly zone it however they want.
I mean, it's a lot cheaper to bid and buy a piece of parcel that's only in conjunction with my store versus buying out the parcel behind South Park Pizza, which I'm sure is the same problem with the homeowners that are sitting there saying, you got this all grouped together, so what do? All the homeowners band together to try and outbid somebody and then have to try to fight in court then who gets how much of the land?
I actually tried to do that myself once. When they sold a parking lot behind my law office, I banded together with several and we were outbid.
So I mean, if the city has their heart set on rezoning, all right, but what's going to happen with the rest of it? How are you taking care of the traffic flow, the parking, and can it be broke out into smaller parcels so it's reasonable for each entity to purchase?
Mr. Chairman, or Mrs. Chairman, if I could answer to the parcels, those are just possibility lines, and those had to be done, because everything has to be 50-foot of frontage and a minimum of 6,500 square foot. That's why you see the makeup of the way those are. It couldn't just go with boundary lines.
But again, like, what we're discussing tonight is just a rezoning issue.
Correct.
To business.
Correct.
But you're the city, you can always create a variance.
Just a quick comment. Do we create an issue with, for the folks that have, let's say, the houses, and then we're zoning business right behind them? Looks like driveways. Do we create an issue that no business is going to go in there? I wouldn't think, this is just me speaking out loud, if we zone that business behind 3 residential houses. It's kind of concerning.
We'll make this the last comment before, because we have to have a council meeting starting in 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
so.
It is concerning because this Jeff Cox again for 303, like, we have a driveway out there that we don't have to use, but my son uses it when he's home from college, when he comes over. But I believe the 2 of those other houses, the only access they have to park for their house is indeed from Canal Street off the back there because they don't have front parking lots or driveways. So it would be a problem for them if there were indeed businesses back there because then they would not have any, they'd have to build a different parking area for themselves or something else just to be able to access their home.
Thank you. At this time, we'll call the public hearing to a close at 7:28. We're going to do a quick airport meeting, 1 minute.
Thank you, Larry.
Yep.
Here, Larry.
Thrown into the fire, Larry.
There's one thing here.
Yes,
Chris, you guys want to join for the airport meeting? 1 minute meeting.
Come back here.
Yeah. Chris, you're on here. No, you're not. I'm not on.
I was like, I'll
Go
call.
ahead.
Could you turn the lights on back there?
I actually have no idea what I'm ordering it on.
You've been ordained.
What's exactly going on here?
Just have one more quick question. I realize the hearing's over. Is there any way to go on a mailing list so that I don't mix the next one and only have, 4 or 5 hours to?
Absolutely. In fact,
They're
come over
supposed
here.
to send out letters within 200 feet of any proposed changes.
Give me your name and address, email address, and I'll email the information to you as soon as I get it. And I can send it I sent it out on them. That kind of, you should have gotten it before. I can't believe that. And I still get from the new Philly post office. But yeah, I'll definitely send it. I'll send you an email also, so you'll have my email address. If you have any questions about anything, it's online also, just send me an email.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to take out another loan against the bank business and buy a parcel sitting behind the store, but not when you have to buy more than what's the time.
I will make sure that I give you the information. Have a good evening.
Nobody's gonna do anything. Exactly. Oh, I was going through my head. Was I was thinking, I'm gonna start sending out invoices. I think they.
Yes, public works,
Some of them.
because you have to send it to,
But Josh, there's a couple lots there, they just were piling junk, so he had to get on to get rid of it.
Okay, we're gonna be calling the Public Works and Economic Development meeting to order. Members are myself, Mr. Councilman Walker, Councilman Rippeth, and my alternate is, Councilman
Something like
yes,
Simic, yes. We have one item to discuss tonight, and it's airport hangar rental increases. Everybody got to see the exhibits. What we're going on, it's about 11% increase. The airport commission voted unanimously to approve recommendation to the council. Is there any questions on that? No? Any from the other council members? Administration? Yes? Seeing none, do we have any action?
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, the rent, of course, I just got this, but the rent covers the building cost of the new hangars, right?
That's
And the maintenance?
that's already all figured in, yeah,
Okay.
they're under the numbers, yeah, they're all in there. Yeah, these email came out on Friday, I think, something like that. Thursday or Friday.
How come I'm not
All
getting
right.
these?
Any other questions? No? Seeing none, is there any action to be taken on this? I'll make a motion to add to the next meeting's agenda, legislation for the hangar rent proposal.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Walker, and we'll take a vote. I'll vote yes, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
and Mr. Simic.
Yes.
And that we voted unanimously. Is there anything else to come before committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn
So moved.
at 7:33.
and are you ready for the council meeting?
Okay.
Never seems to be done in one breath.
it's a loss in the airport.
The meeting of New Philadelphia Council will now come to order. Would you please rise and remain standing for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Councilman Ribbeth.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. Would you pray with me, please? Your wise and loving Father, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity to be here in the city to do your will, Lord. We just ask that you would guide and direct us in all that we do. We just want to thank you for your many blessings, the blessings of health and prosperity that you bring to all of us, Lord, and for life itself. What a gift it is. Father, we are just pleased to be here tonight to do your business, do the city's business, and we pray for your guidance, your caring. I ask a special blessing, Lord, on all of those who are working in the city tonight, whether they be service department, whether they be safety services and the fire and police, just to put a hedge of protection around them, Lord, and keep them safe in their work and their duties, and just bless them for what they do for this city. Lord, I ask your presence here tonight, and we do this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, clerk, will you please do the roll call?
Mr. Kreinbill.
Here.
Mr. Lonzer.
Present?
Mr. Pace.
Present.
Mrs. Ramos.
Here.
Mr. Rippeth.
Present.
Mr. Simile.
Present.
Mr. Walker.
Present.
Okay. Everybody has tonight's agenda. Is there any additions to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Lonzo, I got addition. I'd like to add resolution number 2, 2024 to tonight's agenda and ask to pass on first reading.
Thank you,
Suspend the
Mr.
rules and pass
Mr.
on. first
Kreinball, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Pace. And we'll take a vote now. Mr. Kreinball? Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Mr. Kreinbill.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Okay, everybody got a copy of the minutes. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Ribbeth?
I'll second.
Mr. Kreinball? And we'll take a roll call, clerk.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbill.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Simile.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
And minutes have been approved. Correspondence from the clerk?
To Councilman Lonzer from President Kemp dated February 15th, 2024. This is an email titled Airport Hangar Rental Fees. Mr. Kemp asked Mr. Lonzer to take this issue into his committee. To Council and Administration from Mayor Day dated February 16th, 2024. This is an email titled Inspection of the New Philadelphia Wastewater Treatment Plant with a report attached. To Mayor Day from Aaron Wright with Omega dated February 20th, 2024. This is an email titled ODNR Recreation Trails and ODNR Clean Ohio Trails Announcement. And to Council and Administration from Mayor Day dated February 26th, 2024. The Mayor's Report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Julie. We will now hear administrative reports. The mayor, Mr. Day.
Thank you, President Pro Temp Lonzer, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. Because my voice will probably fade here, I'm going to limit this to a couple things that I have on my report that I sent to you earlier today. Yesterday, I met with Council Finance Committee Chairman Rippeth to get a summary of last week's committee meeting that I missed due to illness. The chairman and I came up with a list of revisions to the permanent budget's general fund appropriations that the Finance Committee should consider. And he'll be presenting that list to you if he hasn't already. We believe that the revisions would result in a balanced permanent appropriations budget for 2024. Staff reductions are not on the list. Chairman Rippeth and I agree that monthly budget review meetings will be necessary for the remainder of the year to make sure that the budget remains in line with revenue projections. RTY Incorporated plans to obtain 3 more kiddie rides for the Midway at Tuscarora Park. To make room for them, the city will be removing the batting cages, which have remained inoperable for several years. There have been no takers in the city's attempt to sell the batting machinery, so it will be taken as scrap by the contractor doing the demolition job, which should be completed within the next 2 months. Mr. Pace reported to me earlier that the fence is already down. Yep. Removing the concrete work will begin this week. Yep. So it could be a lot sooner than 2 months for that project's completed. And there's room there for the 3 new rides, 3 new kiddie rides. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there any questions for the mayor?
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll have a report from our service director, Mr. McAbear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Last week, Superintendent Myers and I had met with Craig Butler, Mark Johnson from the EPA, and Dave Lautenschlager from Muskingum Watershed. I should say that Craig Butler, Muskingum Watershed, Dave Lautenschlager, Muskingum Watershed, and then Johnson was EPA. Talked about the low overhead dam that, if everybody's not sure where that's at, it's right there below the, crossing the river there at AEP property. If everybody knows, we have a portage there to get out when you kayak, you gotta get around that. There's some grant opportunities through H2O Ohio and some other things that we can do there and be fully funded through that process. What that will take would be a lift station on the west side of the river, lower the pipe and pump it to the other side. So just letting everybody know, we're working on that project. We'll wait to see if funding it can be available. Again, it'll be 100% funded if it can happen. What they're doing there, the biggest thing they're doing is for clean water. Anytime you disturb it versus just flowing, H2O is big on grant money to do that. So that's the reason why they approached us about it. We did have some conversation before Craig and I had about these grants, and he did make the connections, and we all did meet in the same room. So we're exploring that now, and I'll speak more of it as more information comes available. Also, if anybody's made it out to Al Maloney Midway, at the restrooms, inside all the doors are now, all the exterior doors are in. The heat is now in, which I reported that we had to put in because of the new laws that are in place. Everything's painted in there. We still got the base molding that's got to go in to be done. And then the exterior, now with weather permitting, you may see the exterior come to life with the new roof on there. And then remember, we have the big gable opening end almost to the same that we have at the Southside Park. So we should see some of that stuff coming here in the next 6 weeks here because of the weather. Also, I wanted to bring up with the towpath trail that we talked about, the temporary markings we talked about before, to give it a look of a trail at some point, just a temporary market like on Union, 10th Street, and then Miller. Weather permitting, we might start going out there in the next 3 or 4 weeks, just to put some temporary stuff out there, just to do a little test run for it. So be looking for that in the next month, I would say. Also, next week, material bids will be opened up, and that'll also be our landfill fees. So once we get those, I believe I've said before that I'll be coming back and looking at some of our fees within those departments, because I believe you'll see that talking to other cities, since the rate increases, what they've had to do in other cities. But again, I'll bring that to everybody's attention when that comes. But again, we'll open those next week, and I'll report on that at the following council meeting. That's my report.
Thank you, Service Director. Is there any questions for the Service Director?
Question.
Mrs. Ramos?
For the markings on the trail, what was the cost? What is going to be the cost for that,
I haven't
including
got
labor?
I haven't got anything yet. We haven't started anything yet. I haven't even calculated that yet.
Is that in the budget?
Yeah, I mean, it's
What
paint.
line item?
We have to be
I
hitting
mean, we're
materials.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Service Director? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Safety Director, Mr. Popham.
Thank you. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for the Safety Director? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Auditor, Mrs. Gundy.
I don't really have a report, but I do want to say, especially the new council members, our auditors are going to be in anytime now. And they do like to contact the council members just to see what's going on and that kind of thing. So if they reach out to you, there's, no concern. They might have a few questions. That's all I have. They're with Ray and Associates, by the way.
Thank you, Auditor Gundy. Is there any questions for the Auditor? Yes, Mrs. Ramos?
The management letter that we got copies of in December for the year 2022 from the auditors, have we addressed those concerns? There were a number of them.
Well, I'd have to review all them again because I didn't commit that to memory, but it's always an ongoing effort. If you want to be more specific and maybe, talk to me and any in particular that you wanted to know about, I can address that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Auditor? Seeing none, we'll move on to the treasurer, Mr. Gerber.
No reports.
Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer?
Quickly,
Yes, Mr. Riddle.
I'd like to sit down sometime and talk about some of our investments and what options we have with those, just so I have a better understanding from my position as the chair of the finance committee. So do you mind if I reach out to you and try to get together sometime this week? Cool, thank you.
And I submit a copy of that monthly.
Yeah, I want to just understand what's accessible, what's not, where we are, and
It's in that copy of
Okay.
what, each month of what the earnings are, okay?
Thank you. Any other questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, we'll move on to the law director, Mr. Faith.
No report this evening, Mr. President, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Law Director. Any questions for the law director? Seeing none, we'll move into board and commission reports. Planning Commissioner, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission will be meeting, March 12th. Thank you. 1 PM here in council chambers. We're anticipating another visit by Wendy Moeller of Compass Point Planning. She should be giving us the first complete draft of all of our zoning revisions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions for the Planning Commission? No? Seeing none, I'll move on to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbear.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only reason I knew when his meeting is because I'm the same day, but in the evening. So the Board of Zoning Appeals will be March 12th at 5 PM here in council chambers.
Thank you, Mr. McAbear. Airport Commission, myself, we just actually had a 1.5 minute meeting this morning, special meeting of the Airport Commission, and that's gonna be the legislation we're gonna be asking council to pass next meeting when we get that all drawn up for airport hangar rental increases. We'll move on to the Park Board, Mr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
Thank you. The Health Board, Tom.
Yeah, the Health Board met on February 14th, and they presented their annual summary of communicable diseases for the last year in the city, which I thought was somewhat interesting, and I tried to preview it over here. COVID was at the top of the list, as you would expect, at 499. Then came chlamydia, gonorrhea, hepatitis C. But the fifth one was the one that was kind of interesting. It's Lyme disease, which is tick bites. And as it turns out, our health department is way above the state average of cases per 100,000, stuff like that. And if you don't want to be on that list next year, they point out you should wear light clothing, insect repellent, mow your grass. But those are people from the city who had Lyme disease, but they may have got it out at Atwood or Zora or anywhere else hiking. But it was sort of an interesting thing. During this same period, we see a 38% increase in vaccinations excluding COVID, which is kind of interesting. And that is in part because they got a grant to do a lot of encouragement, because they were seeing at least 25% of the kids going to school are not getting vaccinated. So they got to deal with that. So they got a grant to go out and get these parents to get these kids vaccinated. And I'm personally was interested. They seem to get a lot of grants in the health department. And so I asked her, because we're working on this budget now, which is Steve's been wrestling with, and said, so what do you need general fund money for? It was a devil's advocate story. Obviously, they needed money, but it was interesting that some of the things that they are using their money for are health inspections for housing, animal bites, mosquito spraying when the trucks are running out, but wetland treatment, and a lot of other stuff. But they've got an awful lot of different activities going on over there. So you have to tolerate me, because I'm new at this, and I ask a lot of questions, and and you have to sit through some of the answers. So, thank you.
We're gonna go on to council committee reports. Finance Committee, Mr. Rippeth.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met here in council chambers on February 21st at 3 PM. I am not going to run down through a long list of what went on. There was give and take between the department heads, Auditor Gundy, members of council, just going through the line items of the budget to try to find where we can bring our general fund into balance. I want to express my appreciation to everybody who participated that day. I thought we had good give and take, and hopefully it opens the doors to some solutions to our problems. And we adjourned at about, I wrote it down as about 4:41, but I honestly did not look at the clock when you adjourned us, Dan. So.
Thank you, Mr. Rippeth. Public Work and Economic Development is myself, and we actually met this evening at 7:32. And we met very briefly, and we voted unanimously to have the legislation drawn up for hangar rental increases. Something the administration and everybody's on board with, and it was recommended by the Airport Commission also tonight, this evening. Okay.
Are those minutes gonna be emailed to me, or did I hand in a hard copy?
I'm not sure.
You're gonna email it to me? All right, I didn't know if I was waiting for a hard copy, or if you're just gonna email it to them. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Simlak?
No.
Thank you, no report. Okay, Zoning and Annexation, Mrs. Ramos?
No report on the committee, but we did have a good public hearing. So I learned a lot. So anyways, I had a question for you, but I didn't get to.
All for my public?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on Public Works, but I'm sitting here and I missed that meeting. Didn't I? Or it just went by so fast? I didn't vote.
You're not on Public Works unless I got it.
I'm on Public Works.
Oh, they must have changed that. I must have an old copy of it then.
He changed it before January 1.
Who did you replace? Mr. Walker?
We switched, yeah.
Okay. I must not have got the updated one or something. Okay, sorry about that, Mrs. Ramos.
Okay.
You can have that one.
Okay,
Wow.
now see, I had this one. Okay. And nothing for the zoning, you said, right, Mrs. Ramos?
Just that we had an interesting public hearing on the proposed rezonings.
Okay. All right, Salary Committee, Mr. Kreinbell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Salary Committee met tonight at 6:45 in council chambers. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss resolution number 2, 2024, which was to authorize the approval of memorandum of agreement between the city and the AFSCME. After discussion, the committee voted to place resolution number 2, 2024 on tonight's agenda and pass on first reading. Meeting ended at 6:53.
Thank you. Parks and Cemetery, Mr. Pace?
Thank you, Mr. President, no report.
Thank you. We got Contact and Special, Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Mr. President. So there's no meeting, nothing to report, but we will be having another meeting before the next council meeting, which is the 11th, is that correct?
Yes.
So you tell me the time.
How long do you need it?
We'll probably need a half hour.
Okay, so 7 o'clock?
7, yep. So we'll have a meeting March 11th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
We now are gonna open it up for visitors' comment. The floor is now open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address council should rise, state their name, address, and all comments to the chair. You'll begin at a 5-minute time limit. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to council tonight? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Dale Burke. I live at 1003 Ray Avenue Northeast. I'd like to thank council for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And this is in reference to the DORA proposal for the downtown area of New Philadelphia. Just to save time, I have made a list of negatives for this proposal and potential problems that could arise within the city. Cheryl has copies of that, and I hopefully made enough to provide everybody one. The only other thing I want to add to that is, I don't know how money moves through the city government. I'm not going to pretend to know that, But from what I understand and what I've been reading, there's a little bit of a budget problem within the city right now in money. And there was also talk that people could possibly lose their jobs or be laid off over this situation. And I really don't know, as a city, how we can ever talk about a proposal like Dora and then turn right around and talk about people losing their jobs, because no matter what anybody says, there are gonna be costs that arise with this Dora proposal. And my thought is, if this proposal goes forward and it goes through, I feel that the businesses that are gonna profit from this proposal, which would be any business in that area that serves alcohol, should be the businesses, and they should be the people that pay for these expenses. I don't think it should be on the city. If they're gonna profit from it, any expenses that occur, like extra law enforcement to make sure everybody doesn't leave the area with their cup, liability, any legal liability from any situation that arises from possibly inebriated customers walking around the downtown area, and garbage pickup, because you know when someone gets done with that cup, they're gonna in the nearest shrub. So to say that it's not gonna cost the city any money to pass this, I think is being way over optimistic. And if they are, you know, there are expenses incurred, I believe that those businesses that are gonna profit, they should be the ones to pick up those expenses. So that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing, sir. Anybody else like to speak to city council this evening? Thank you.
Good evening. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Thank you. You're your chair tonight then,
Pro
President
Tem,
Pro Tem. Hey, I'm Jody Salvo, and I know you usually see me here speaking about substance use prevention, mental health issues. And I've always said one day I'll come and speak about another issue. I just want to introduce myself as a candidate for House District 51. I'm running as a Republican in the March primary. And I just kind of wanted to let you know a little bit about my why. I've served the community for about 12 years, passionately to protect our children, our youth, and our communities, and just kind of came to a position where I feel like we really do need a change. I just wanted to let you know my heart behind this. I'm a mom, I'm a community member, a community leader, and I really just want to represent Tuscarawas County well. So as far as y'all pretty much know my stance on protecting our young people and investing in our schools. But as a candidate, I am a conservative, but some of the core concepts I have is definitely, I do not believe in government overreach. I am passionate about local control. In the world I work in, I have seen the city of New Philadelphia. I've seen many of our cities in Tuscarawas County. I've seen our county as a whole. This is an amazing place to live. And I work across the state of Ohio, and I know for a fact when we have community problems, we have community leaders that can get things done. So I will be a very strong supporter and advocate to restoring local funding to our local communities and allowing us to do the jobs that we need to do. Another couple of the reasons just in place is I really feel that we need a very strong voice in Columbus to represent our community values. And I have no other dog in the fight. I just want the best for our community. I am well seasoned at standing up and just being a strong force to protect that I'm passionate about. And what's in it for me is to hear the voice of our community. I've always been present in the community, and I am very committed to learning. There's some areas that will be new to me, and I'm drinking from a fire hydrant right now, knocking doors across Tuscarawas County, learning what's important to our constituents. So I just wanted to say I'm here. I would welcome you checking out my campaign page. If anyone has questions, wants to reach out, I'd love to meet with anyone at this point, and it would be my honor to represent the city of New Philadelphia. You guys do amazing work. I'm proud to live in this county and see these communities just work super well. And I just want to be able to help provide solutions to problems and advocate in Columbus for the needs on behalf of each community in our county and our families and our youth. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Anybody else like to address council?
Ken Hacker, 735 Miller Avenue Northwest in New Philadelphia. Speaking to the issue down here that we had the long discussion on. You folks that are going to vote on this are going to make the decision. You need to go out and actually look at the situation. And go out and see what is being talked about out there. The maps helped me understand it a little more. My only connection with them down there, I have an above-ground pool and I buy my chemicals at Martinelli's. So that's the only reason I know that area, because I park it a couple times a summer. I park down there and get my water tested. So I think just encouraging you, that's a big decision. It's a big thing there for, doesn't affect a huge number of people, but once you make any big changes down there, they're gonna be permanent. You need to look at it closely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address council? Okay, at this time, we're gonna have council comments. Any of the council members like to address? Yes, Mrs. Ramos?
I would just like to encourage everyone in council, and it's available, to read the survey that was done by Aegeus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, 360 on the downtown.
Aegeus, 360.
Aegeus. They had 200 and some respondents that we got. I wasn't able to get who responded or where they lived. But there were 5 results, and I think I accidentally gave you my report, the copy of the report. Number 1 was parking needed in downtown, and I would like to say that actually I did get a phone call from an elderly resident in my ward that said the exact same thing. She had trouble parking in the downtown. Number 2 was safety. And that's been mentioned when the gentleman talked about the DORA. So those are the priorities from the survey. Parking and safety for the downtown. So I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to that report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramos. Anybody else? No? We'll go into our legislative agenda.
Ordinance number 5, 2024, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to amend ordinance 159 by repealing sections 159.02, sick leave, visit by city nurse, and 159.03, residence requirement, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action to be taken on this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next.
Ordinance number 6, 2024, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to repeal codified ordinance chapter 778, closing out and fire sales in its entirety, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, is there any action to be taken on ordinance 6? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next ordinance.
Ordinance number 9, 2024, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to permanently rezone the following parcels in the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, from residential zone to business zone, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Is there any action to be taken on ordinance 9, 2024? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next piece of legislation.
Ordinance number 10, 2024, an ordinance by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to permanently rezone the following parcel in the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, from residential zone to industrial zone and declaring an emergency, third reading.
Is there any action to be taken on ordinance 10?
I move that we pass ordinance 10, 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. We have a second. Mr. Pace?
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mr. Rippett.
Yes.
Mr. Similink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Thank you. That's
So
all.
ordinance 10 is
Do we have a?
Resolution.
Resolution? Yeah.
Resolution number 2, 2024, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, to approve a memorandum of agreement between the city of New Philadelphia, Ohio, and AFSCME Ohio Council 8 and Local 1959 and Ohio Council 8 Service Maintenance and Technical Employees Chapter, and authorizing the mayor and service director to sign on to this on the city's behalf and declaring an emergency, first reading.
Is there any action to be taken on resolution?
Mr. President, I ask that we suspend the rules.
Thank you,
on
Mr.
Resolution 2, 2024.
Resolution 2, is that what it is?
I think it's.
Thank you. Mr. Pace, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Mr. Rippeth, and we'll take the roll call on that.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Similink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
And rules have been suspended. Is there any action to be taken on resolution 2?
Mr. President,
Pace?
I ask that we pass Resolution 2, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rippeth, and we'll take a roll call on that.
Mr. Pace.
Yes.
Mr. Rippeth.
Yes.
Mr. Kreinbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Similink.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
And resolution 2 has passed.
And that concludes legislation for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished or old business this evening? Yes, Mrs. Ramos?
I would like to ask about, maybe this is an issue for the law director. From the person that called me, and I think we brought this up before about drones in the city. Did we do anything with that, or?
Well, drones are governed by the same, they have
FAA.
regulations, so they're governed by federal law.
So I guess my question is,
I know they have to be licensed, that you have to be an authorized drone operator, there's all kinds of hoops that have to jump through for someone to have a drone.
how about the people that don't do that, they just buy them off the shelf and buzz them around? Do we have any, like, ordinance that you have to be licensed to have a drone in the city, use one?
Well, I think that the federal law would trump anything we did.
I can speak some to that.
Yeah.
Having, that we teach the drone class at Buckeye Career Center. You must be FAA 107 certified to be a commercial drone pilot. I, as a private citizen, as long as my drone is under a certain weight, I have to register that drone with the FAA. Then I have to follow FAA regulations. I can't fly it at the airport because that's a no-fly zone. So all of that, where you can fly it and where you can't, is covered by federal regulation. I see where you're going. It could be an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, the
There are a lot of things that can go
neighborhood,
on.
yeah, the noise.
And the noise, but if it, you know, FAA doesn't really get too concerned about that. They are concerned with safety.
Thank you, Mr.
So can
Ritter.
we be concerned as a city, or no? It's like a no,
If I
nothing
would,
to
Mrs.
be done?
Ramos,
Yes,
you've received complaints about this?
yes.
Have you told the police, or has the complainants told the police?
I didn't know how to advise them, but I have their number and I can call them back.
Let the police know if someone's buzzing their houses or outside their window with a drone.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramos. Anybody else have any old or unfinished business? Seeing none. Any new business? No? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Ramos?
Everybody jump at once.
All right, so, okay, motion adjourned.
Tom moved.
So 8:09.
We are adjourned.
Come on.